Well, Chris Tanev is as durable as advertised. Jani Hakanpaa is close to a return, and the Dallas Stars prepare for Conner Mcdavid and the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Let's jump into it next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The best team in the Western Conference, yes, it is the Dallas Stars, taking on one of the hottest teams over the past few months in the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Should be a fun one at the American Airlines Center. And some good news coming out of practice with Chris Tanev as well as Jani Hakanpaa. I will give you an update there. We'll preview the Oilers. We'll play Shooting Star on a great Wednesday episode of Locked On Stars. Apologize for not putting out an episode yesterday. I was hit with a cold over the weekend that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had no energy and was unable to push through and put out an episode, but I'm ready to go here today. So no worries, we're back and excited to be back. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Appreciate all the supporters this season. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So a lot of good stuff coming out of practice yesterday, and priority number one was the health of Chris Tanev, and he was the first player on the ice for practice yesterday, which I think shocked many, including me. Could not believe he was already out there and ready to go. He was a full participant in practice, which is a great sign. They did ask him after if he's feeling anything, and he said, even if I was, I wouldn't tell you. So there is something certainly that he's dealing with. The severity of it, who knows? But he is one tough cookie, and Pete DeBoer mentioned it in his press conference yesterday about all his teammates in Calgary, just about how durable and how tough he really is. He dealt with a ton of injuries this season in Calgary. He had a lot of things that he was pushing through, and time again, he is in the lineup and he's ready to go. And it's a great sign for the Stars, number one. It's a great sign for the Stars defense that he is good enough to go. And hopefully it isn't anything that's going to hamper his ability moving forward. I guess the silver lining of it is his injury or the pain that he's dealing with maybe is not going to affect his play as much as someone like Miro Heiskanen or Thomas Harley, who's a little more offensively inclined, and their mobility is a big factor in the way they play defense, where Chris Tanev is a bit more physical as it is, and he's not as mobile. He's a little more of a stay-at-home defenseman. So hopefully that doesn't hamper his ability moving forward. He blocks shots, and he's physical, and he likes to be in front of the crease and muck it up a bit. And it's great that it seems to be that he's okay as of right now, and he'll be able to play even tonight. No lineup decisions as of yet. We'll know a bit here as the night goes on, but as the day goes on. But great stuff to hear from Chris Tanev and how he feels participating in practice. And yeah, he's as durable as he was advertised coming over to Dallas, and it did not look good, that hit. It did not look good by any means. Looked like his forearm, his elbow got caught on that Larson hit, and I'm truly surprised. But these are hockey players at the end of the day, and at a point in the season where you're starting to ramp things up, and he knows how important every point is moving forward. And He knows the role that he was brought in to do, and he's going to do that to the best of his ability. And he's done fantastic. He's been a welcome addition to this Stars defense that has been really, really good, or at least better as of late. And speaking of more defensemen, Jani Hakanpaa is close to a return. He did skate on Monday. He had a scheduled off day yesterday, according to Pete DeBoer, and he is close, which is also a great sign, which brought up the question that Pete DeBoer was asked, how do you feel about Ryan Suter and Nils Lundkvist? And he went very vague about it, but he mentioned that they're going to need everybody moving forward. And I feel like I've made that pretty clear as well. I would expect Hakanpaa is going to jump back into the lineup when when he's ready. That's just my gut feeling, even though I think Nils deserves to be in the lineup and has played really, really well, or at least enough to prove he's ready to be a mainstay. But I just feel like Pete DeBoer is going to go with a veteran presence and have Hakanpaa in the lineup. But I did like, or was encouraged by, his answer about they're going to need everybody. And I feel like I brought this up recently, where the Stars have a versatile lineup. They have a variety of different guys that can assume different roles, and they are going to need all 7 defensemen. And we've already seen a bit of that here in the most recent games against the Kraken. I saw Miro Heiskanen with Esa Lindell at some point. I saw Thomas Harley with Chris Tanev, and we saw Suter with Heiskanen at different moments throughout the game, especially when power plays or penalty kills can sort of, I would say, sort of mix up the rhythm of certain guys because they're not on the penalty kill or they're not on the power play. So ice time can get a little bit difficult when you're in a special teams battle. So I think it's nice where, he can use whoever he feels inclined with different partners, which I think is fantastic. And who knows what you're going to get out of a Miro Heiskanen at Tanev at certain points throughout the year or certain points throughout the playoffs. We see it all the time. Teams go in thinking one thing. We're all going in thinking one thing, and games 1 and 2, there's some injuries, there's some bruises, and all of a sudden everything has to change. And I think it's a great sign that you can kind of see what they're thinking by the pairings that they're putting out recently in the last few games. They're showing that they're willing to at least mix it up on the back end if things aren't going well, or they just need to get some guys some ice time, depending on how many penalties they just killed in a row, or if they had the 5-minute power play like they did against Seattle early in the third, and the majority of that time is taken by Miro and Harley. I think it's a really, it's a strength. It's a strength of a really good team in the National Hockey League. And of course, they're number 1 in the Western Conference right now. I think it's an overall great thing that the Stars feel they have some versatility on the back end and they can kind of play anybody with everybody. And I've picked up on that recently, some of the different pairings that have gone out there. And he seems to be subscribing by that method. Even if I wish he answered the Nils Lundkvist question a bit more directly, but he's absolutely right. They're going to need all 7 because people get hurt. There are going to be injuries. There is going to be adversity during what is hopefully a long playoff run. So they have to be comfortable and trust whoever they put out there. And I think they've been able to acquire some trust with Nils Lundkvist. And he also mentioned there is a bit of salt to take with it. Their schedule was not the best. They played a lot of bottom feeders during the last 7 to 10 games, and he would be correct. He's absolutely correct there too. They did not play a very tough schedule, but the defense has seemed to be a bit more connected, and Tanev mentioned that, just being connected. They're a 5-man group, all on the same page, and we have certainly seen that. And what also helps is better goaltending, and Jake Ottinger looks to find his groove as we continue into the postseason. But a lot of good news and positives coming out of Stars practice, which I was frankly not expecting, at least with Chris Tanev. It's surprising that he was out there right away. But look, I shouldn't have doubted him. He's a tough cookie. He certainly is, and that's great news for the Stars. They need some of that edge, and just I'm gonna fight through everything. And I guarantee you, he has some pain. He's not gonna let anybody know, but he's certainly dealing with something. But hey, he's the definition of a hockey player. He's got no teeth. He's he has teeth. Okay. He's missing some chiclets, which is never a bad thing for a defenseman. I think he's the perfect symbol of what you want a stay-at-home defenseman to be. He's been a great acquisition, and never forget that. Props to Jim Neal, by the way. Once again, I haven't touched on it. I feel like since the trade deadline, the absolute bargain he got Chris Tanev for. So another round of applause for the reigning National Hockey League GM of the year. Okay, let's jump into the Edmonton Oilers. Yes, Conner Mcdavid and the Oilers that have been firing on all cylinders. It feels like for a few months. This is a big one. National televised game. That wasn't the case at first, but it got flexed. So you know it's a big one on home ice. Let's dive into it in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is obsessed with finding you ways to save money on tickets. And Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. I know you want to see the reigning World Series champs in action, so why not use Game Time to get you some tickets? Last minute tickets, they have flash deals, easy to find and buy MLB tickets for every kind of event in your area. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you know it. They have it. Toggling this feature shows the total up front. You get none of those surprise fees as well. Plus, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find seats in the same section and row for less. Game Time is the best, so take the guesswork out of getting tickets. Download the Game Time app. It takes 30 seconds. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Alrighty, big one tonight. The Dallas Stars versus the Edmonton Oilers. It's a late puck drop as well, which I am irritated by. But if that's the worst thing that happens to me today, then everything will be all right. 8:30 puck drop. It is on TNT. The Dallas Stars versus the Edmonton Oilers. And Edmonton has made an incredible run, especially post All-Star break. They got off to that horrific start. They fired their head coach, Jay Woodcroft, and then they went on a run. And to no surprise, look, they have the best player on the planet that has 126 points. He's about to eclipse 100 assists on the season. And yeah, he is a pretty good partner in crime with Draisaitl on the back end with 99 points. Bouchard is great. Hyman, who's having an incredible season, 52 goals on the year. Zach Hyman, who just gets in front of the net. He gets the greasy goals right on top of the crease. He goes to the hard areas and he gets rewarded. I know there's a lot of discourse revolving around Zach Hyman and his play. Look, I would probably be very good with Conner Mcdavid if I played with him on an everyday basis. But there is something to be said about going to the hard areas and scoring goals. And that's what he does. And you can't fault him for it, because I would sit right on the doorstep too if Conner Mcdavid was my line mate, and I get all the tap-ins in the world because it's going to make you a lot of money. But he's also just a really, really good player. They've gotten better goaltending here too, which has helped in Stuart Skinner, who has played in 54 games this season, 906 save percentage, 2.63 goals against average. So that has been a huge benefit for the Oilers, and they find themselves now in second in the Pacific Division, 45, 23, and 5. They are coming off of a 3-2 loss at the hands of the St. Louis Blues. But yeah, a very good club. I don't have to tell you that. They're 6-2 and 2 in their last 10. Their power play, of course, is as deadly as they come. They're second in the NHL at 28%. Their PKs right around middle of the pack, but they score a lot and they defend really well. They're top 10 in goals against and goals per game. That's kind of a club that I think a lot of teams come playoff time, or teams that at least win the Stanley Cup, they have a characteristic of that. They're stingy defensively and they can score. The Stars have improved here as of late. They're just outside of the top 10 now in goals against at 2.91. But I'm excited for the head-to-head matchups of Miro Heiskanen and Harley versus McDavid. They've done a decent job of keeping McDavid at bay. In the first couple of games they played against Edmonton. So that is certainly a good sign. Easier said than done, of course, but they have done a decent job of at least keeping him from becoming a huge factor, or at least the factor. And that's what you have to do. You try to keep 97 and 29 off of the score sheet for as long as you can. But McDavid has 11 points in his last 5 games. Hey, Jamie Benn has 8 in his last 5. So the Stars have some different players on some runs as well that hopefully will continue. But I'm super pumped for this game, and DeBoer and company spoke on it a bit. Like, they have some really, really huge games on the docket this week, beginning with Edmonton here tonight, and then you have a big one on Sunday against Colorado in a back-to-back. So some very important games moving forward. They have been able to extend their lead a bit. It helped that Colorado lost yesterday, so the Stars have a 3-point advantage over Colorado with the exact same number of 75 games played. Winnipeg, I think, is pretty much out of it unless the Stars collapse, but I don't really see that happening, especially with the Stars still having a pretty soft schedule here in the last 7 games. But they're at the top of the Western Conference, and Edmonton would love to extend their or I should say increase their seeding. I mean, there's a possibility that they win the Pacific. That's still in the cards if Vancouver continues to falter here a bit down the stretch. They trail the Canucks by just 5 points. But I think a really, really fun one on tap. This is a great test once again. They're really good on the back end. Edmonton probably doesn't get enough love, but Matthias Ekholm and Bouchard is such a great defenseman. Darnell Nurse hasn't had a huge season, or at least one that he was hoping for, but of course, just a really good veteran presence on the back end, along with Cody Ceci. But the Stars have handled them pretty well in their first couple of meetings. So we'll see how they handle them tonight on home ice, as the Stars won 4-3 in the first 2 meetings. And I don't remember the one being that close, the 4-3 in November. I want to say that was one the Stars had pretty handedly, and Edmonton made it pretty close down the stretch. Excuse me, Edmonton won in overtime 4-3 in February. That was the one I think the Stars ended up giving up the lead late, and then Edmonton scored on the power play. Yeah, both teams were able to etch out a win in the first 2. Look, I still have sick brain a bit. I'm a little bit foggy, so I'm working out the kinks as we go along. But should be a fun one. 6-2-2 the last 10 for Edmonton, and the Stars, of course, have won 7 straight games, which matched a franchise record. Can they get to 8? Can they get to 8? They're going to have to go through a tough opponent tonight in the Edmonton Oilers. Should be a fantastic, fantastic contest. Give me your predictions in the comment section below. While you do that, give me your shooting star predictions, the player of the game for the Dallas Stars tonight in the comment section below. Who's going to lead the Stars to victory? I have one on my mind, and I must share it with you, and I will do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. We have the Final Four for both the NCAA men's and women's basketball championships. We have the Frozen Four with a couple of Boston teams in it, which I don't love, but hey, Boston and the East Coast will get what they want, okay? I'm a little bit biased. I want to see some of the Minnesota teams in there, but to each its own. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That is right. $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. So go ahead, get FanDuel. New customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut the nets down. Hey, Stars fans, be sure to check out Locked On Sports today. You've heard me talk about it all season long. It's the first ever free 24/7 sports streaming channel. Gives you analysis, opinions, and news on all the biggest sports stories. It's on YouTube. It's also on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day, just like Locked On Stars, or at least every single day when you don't get hit with a huge cold over the weekend. It is snowing in the state of Wisconsin right now. I can't believe it. It is April. I did not ask for this. I expected it, but I did not ask for it. I'm ready for it to be warm once again. I am jealous of all you Texans. I say that as if I'm not a Texan. I'm always a Texan deep down, but currently do not reside there. So this is what I have to deal with, Stars fans. This is what I have to deal with. At least the Dallas Stars make it easy to root for with the season they've had. They've had quite the year. And to be honest, it was kind of to be expected, right? It's kind of funny, even with all the ups and downs this season and the slumps and the concerns, this is right around where we expected the Stars to be at the end of the year, right? We expect them to be top 3. I thought they were going to be top at least 3 in the Western Conference. And look, that's where they are. They're leading the Western Conference after all this. But of course, the job is not finished. Okay, shooting star. This one feels a bit overdue. And it's been a while since we've had that game from this guy. Just like, oh yeah, there he is, dominating on a nightly basis. And maybe he was just waiting for me to pick him for shooting star, and that will unlock him once again. Matt Duchene. We're going with Duchene, the best value in the National Hockey League. Haven't said that in a while, but without a point in his last 3 games, did have a big 3-point night against Arizona last week. Feels like Matt Duchene is just going to have a game tonight against the Oilers. Need him to have a game. Haven't seen Matt Duchene, right, here as of late, but Sagan is back. They're playing together. They're figuring it out. Give me Matt Duchene for tonight's shooting star pick against the Edmonton Oilers. He's had a great season, 62 points in 73 games, which includes 24 goals and 38 assists. He has 7 GWGs, by the way, so he's scoring some big-time goals. It's not just any type of goal. He's scoring some big ones, like game winners, deciding ones. So I'm going with Matt Duchene tonight. Just feels like a pick where maybe it unlocks him a bit, because I mentioned haven't seen like, oh yeah, like he's just taking over, and would love to see that tonight against the Oilers. So that's who I'm going with for my shooting star pick tonight. Let me know who yours is in the comment section below. Oilers versus Stars. You can check out the hometown broadcast on Sirius XM on the SXM app. Just search Stars to check out Razor and the boys. National televised game, by the way. So I don't think it is on Bally. It's just on TNT and stuff. 8:30 puck drop, which is probably like 8:45 because for some reason TNT and I don't know. Now it's probably not even their fault, but that's what they do. They always start at like 10 minutes after what the scheduled start time is. And we're going to have to deal with that when the playoffs come, because it's always like 20 minutes after for some reason, because I mean, why tell us exactly when it starts? Let's get us to our TVs a bit earlier. We're all busy, man. We got things going on before we plop down for 2.5 hours. And it would be great if they could just tell us when puck drop is actually going to be. Anyways, I digress on that little rant. Great news coming out of the Dallas Stars, however. As I mentioned, Tanev is okay. He skated. Jani Hakanpaa is close to a return. Everybody seems to be as healthy as can be at this point in the season. A fun one tonight. Drop your predictions below. Let me know how you're feeling about tonight's game as the Dallas Stars try to break a franchise record of 7 wins in a row. Can they make it 8 tonight? We will see. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your Wednesday. Enjoy Stars hockey. We'll break it down tomorrow and all the goodness that comes with it. And we'll see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.